Jury selection began today in Stephenville for the man accused of killing Navy SEAL sniper Chris Kyle and his friend Chad Littlefield. Eddie Ray Routh is charged with 2 counts of capital murder for killing Kyle and Littlefield 2 years ago at a gun range in Erath County. Fox 4's Phil Alvarado spent the day at the courthouse.
800 people were called for jury duty, 400 today, 400 tomorrow. Of those expected today, only about half showed up, but 150 of those were qualified. They'll return on Monday, where they'll be questioned by attorneys, and that's what will determine who ends up on this jury. Eddie Ray Routh's appearance has changed dramatically since he was arrested 2 years ago for the shooting deaths of American sniper Chris Kyle and Kyle's friend Chad Littlefield. No video was allowed in the courtroom. Today he was wearing a jacket but no tie.
I like to hear the whole story.
Mark Merritt says he was excused from the list of potential jurors for medical reasons. He's a big fan of Chris Kyle.
He's a hero, and he was trying to help others, and just the wrong thing went bad.
Chris Kyle became known around the world for the highest number of kills in U.S. military history during his 4 tours of duty in Iraq. Routh is accused of killing Kyle at a gun range where Kyle had taken Routh as a way to reach out to him. Kyle was trying to help veterans who showed signs of post-traumatic stress disorder.
I thought it was noble what he was trying to do, and trying to help veterans kind of get reacclimated.
Chris Conway says he was excused as a potential juror because he's already made up his mind.
I don't really buy the insanity position of that.
Defense attorneys say Routh will plead not guilty by reason of insanity. Prosecutors want a life sentence without parole, not the death penalty. The trial is taking place under a heavy net of security. 2 streets are blocked off next to the courthouse. Officers are stationed at each corner, and new security cameras provide a view of the area. Some are only a day old.
It's obviously a terrible tragedy, and it was, I don't know. I don't know that I would want to be on that sort of trial.
Lucas Birch says he was excused as a potential juror because he already had plans to travel out of the country.
I guess I could have been as fair as anyone, I don't know, but like I said, already knowing some of the details and being here local, and so hearing different people's take on knowing different things, and not that I have any inside story, but just seeing the movie and stuff, I think there's a lot of a personal opinion that plays into it.
Security is being provided by the DPS, the Sheriff's Office, and the Police Department. That security will be expanded over the weekend in preparation for tomorrow. The trial is expected to begin on Wednesday. In Stephenville, Phil Alvarado, Fox 4 News.
Okay, attorney and jury consultant Mary Griffitts joins us in studio to talk about the trial. I think it was really fascinating to listen to those people who were excused. Only one of them was excused because he'd formed an opinion. This last guy might have been the best candidate, who said he didn't want to serve on that kind of jury. And I asked you about the first guy who had a medical condition, and he said, boy, I admire Chris Kyle, think he was trying to do a great thing, and something went bad. That may be the best they're going to get as a defense with all the exposure, right?
Right, with all of the, media, all of the books, all of the blogs, all of the information that's out there. It's going to be hard for the defense to find a juror who doesn't know anything about this or is a clean slate. So
I don't know what the jury pool looks like at this point, but what's the perfect defense witness? Do you have one in mind for this case?
You mean for the perfect defense juror?
Yes.
Is somebody,
not witness juror, I'm sorry, yeah.
It would be somebody who would kind of come in not knowing a whole lot of information, but more importantly, the defense really needs to figure out where the juror stands on mental illness. Their whole argument is not guilty by reason of insanity. So knowing where a juror stands about mental illness is going to be huge. There are some jurors we talk to who don't believe in that validity of that defense. They don't think you should be able to say, no, I'm sorry, I was having some sort of problem, that's why I did this. So they really need to delve deep into that, along with the post-traumatic stress disorder. If
you don't believe in mental illness, is that a strike, or will the judge remove them? Well,
it could definitely be something for cause. If that, no matter what facts, no matter what evidence I put in front of you, you do not believe that somebody should be not guilty by reason of insanity. So it wouldn't matter what they try to prove, you just don't believe in that legality of it.
Okay. Let's talk about, I think Well, it's going to be a tough trial, I think. It's going to be tough for the defense with this exposure. But is it a slam dunk? It doesn't sound like you think it's a slam dunk, especially with the mental illness aspect.
No trial is a slam dunk. And if you look at the Andrea Yates case a few years back, that horrific event where that woman killed her children, the first trial, that jury thought guilty. They didn't buy into insanity. But then because an expert witness had some inconsistent testimony, there was a second trial, and that jury did say not guilty by reason of insanity. So you already can see that differing minds can come up with different conclusions when it comes to mental insanity in that defense.
And the defendant served in the service himself.
Correct.
And that may be a mitigating factor with some on the jury, right?
Well, you know, this is a tragic for both sides, and I'm sure that having any veterans, and in this particular community of Stephenville where this is going to be tried, there is like a 2,000 or more group of veterans. Having that type of idea, you know, having that type of philosophy there, I'm sure it's going to be hard for any of them to think, even if I served, if I have PTSD or knew somebody, I still may have not done such a horrific event. So the defense really needs to look at those jurors as well. Just because you know about it or have had experience with it, you may have never gotten to the level that this particular defendant did.
Social media doesn't run the world, and it's oftentimes a pain in the neck. But some of the things floated out when this first happened were basically, why did they take him to the gun range? What were they thinking? What were they doing? Do you think the defense floats that almost they share some responsibility for maybe bringing this sick person to the gun range? Would they dare get into that area? That's a touchy area. You could really offend a lot of people.
Absolutely. And, you know, as far as PTSD, I hear that that is one of the things that they do as far as getting people sort of acclimated. They hear the noise. There's maybe something that relaxes them about that. That would be sort of a weak strategy point for the defense. Okay. I think more importantly for both sides is to make sure they tell the jury, the people who actually sit there, not to Google, not to be the Googling juror. Because if you start Googling, we could come up with a mistrial, because you never know where information is coming from, if it's biased, if it hasn't been cross-examined. Both sides need to make sure, and I'm sure the judge in this case, because so much is riding on this, that they'll tell the jury, stay off the internet for good reason, because we wouldn't want a mistrial in this case.
And you said you've interviewed the Googling juror. What's the motivation? Are they just trying to find something to help them make their decision, or are they do they have bad intentions? What usually happens?
Most of the time I find that it's good intentions. These jurors just want to figure out legal definitions. They want more information about what something means. The problem is that they bring in, maybe they read a blog and we don't know who wrote the blog. Right. We don't know where it comes from. And all of a sudden it's hearsay evidence that's coming into deliberations that hasn't been cross-examined. Right. And then that becomes part of their deliberation process and hence could be a mistrial.
The whole jury's room. One last thing, you talked to James Rose earlier and I thought it was fascinating. You say attorneys also have to be aware of somebody who just wants to be on this jury to get famous themselves and somewhere down the line write a book or something like that. How do you find that person? And is it important to find that person?
Absolutely. The stealth juror, when you have huge trial cases like
this will be, right.
You are looking for somebody who may not be, both sides are, not telling you the truth. They're telling you what they believe you want to hear, and hence you really don't know what they really are thinking because they're not being honest. And so both sides could be hurt to a great deal by that. So how you find out is you look at maybe their jury questionnaires. When they're answering questions during voir dire, you're watching them. You're watching the other people as they're responding. This is a small town, so people are going to know each other on that jury pool. So there's a lot that can go on that can help you find potentially a stealth juror.
Okay, Mary Griffitts, thanks. We'll have you back. It's interesting just getting started today. Thanks.
Thank you.